You are about to embark on a journey into Schrodinger's hat, a place where science fact coexists with science fiction, a place where everything you see and hear is simultaneously real and completely made up. So settle down, relax, and enjoy your time in the capable hands of the Free Radicals!
Science!
Hello everyone. Yeah, I've come to talk about some of my work really, I guess. And so what our lab is interested in is how embryos develop. Okay, and so usually we work on zebrafish embryos, but I'm going to tell you a bit about zebrafish embryos. I'll tell you a little bit about chick embryos, and a little bit about mouse embryos. And essentially what I'm really interested in is what are the core mechanisms that establish the main body plan of vertebrate embryo, which is why I work on different embryos. Right? So by body plan, I mean, what is it that the embryo has to learn in order to know that some cells are going to be the head, some cells are going to be the tail, some cells are going to be the back, some cells are going to be the belly, right? So we call these sort of body axes, right? So how do those cells figure out what kind of cell they're supposed to be, and how do they figure out where they're supposed to go as the embryo is developing, right? So we can all imagine a fertilized egg, right? And that fertilized egg undergoes lots of divisions. So then you have a ball of cells. And all of these cells, they have the same DNA, right? And yet somehow these cells with the same DNA have become different cell types, right? And so it's a bit of a mystery as to how those cells then become different, right? So I'm going to talk, first of all, a little bit about some of the things that we know about how cells become different. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the things we know about how cells know how to move to the right place. And then I want to talk about some of the differences that we know that happen between these three species, the zebrafish, the chick, and the mouse. And then I'm going to, at the end, tell you about a recent experiment that we've done in the lab. We haven't even published it yet. So this kind of, it's confusing me. I don't really know, it's a problem. So maybe you guys have some ideas. Okay, so basically, so as I said, every cell, and so these are really the two questions in developmental biology, like if we boil it down, right, which is how cells know what kind of cell to be and how they know where to go, right? And these questions are very important, not just for understanding how embryos develop, but they're also important if we want to take stem cells in culture and if we want to generate different tissues or something like this in culture, we need to know what signals to give them to push them in one direction or another. And it's also very important if we want to understand a little bit what goes on in cancer biology, right? Because here, essentially cancer cells, they forget the programming that they've received during development. So if we take a skin cancer, essentially what skin cancer is doing is it's forgotten that it's supposed to be a skin cell. And it's dividing like crazy, and it's becoming different cell types it's not supposed to do, and then it's even invading into the body and going to places where it shouldn't go to, right? Not very good. And so what's going on here is that actually the program that's happening in development is undoing itself. The cells are turning into almost like an embryonic state and taking decisions that they're not supposed to be taking. So the more that we can understand how that program happens during normal development, the more we can understand how that's unraveled in cancer, and it can give us ideas about targets that we can sort of look at to try to stop these processes. Okay, so I mentioned before that a cell, you have a ball of cells, the embryo. Every cell picks up the same DNA. Every time a cell divides, it takes the same DNA with it. Right? Cells become different because they make different proteins. Proteins are the things that do the jobs. Right? They're the things that make cells turn into different shapes and do different tasks. Right? And cells make different proteins because they have different genes turned on or turned off. Okay? Essentially, we'll just leave it at that for now. And you can tell a cell to turn different genes on and turn those genes off by giving them signals, right? So one particular protein could be something that's released from a cell, and then it travels across the field of cells and then gives instructions to those cells, right? So early on in the embryo, we know that there's a region that forms called the organizer, and that organizer is releasing these signals, and it's diffusing across the field of cells. So the cells that are quite close to me will receive a lot of that signal, and they'll maybe decide, well, I'm going to make neural tissue, right? The ones in the middle will receive a small amount of that tissue, that signal, and they'll make a different fate choice. They might decide to become, I don't know, a muscle cell, right? And the ones really far away, they don't receive any of that signal, and then they just switch to something boring like epidermis. Epidermis is great. And so that's one basic principle for how cells become different, right? So you essentially have spatial information that turns into different cell types because cells are releasing these signals. And we have this very special structure called the organizer that's releasing these signals in a nice graded fashion. Right? Okay. The second thing that cells need to do is to know where to go, right? And so we know that some cells will again release signals, and those signals can be chemoattractants, right? So I could release a signal, and Ollie could be like, oh yeah, it's lovely, and he could come over towards me because he wants to be attracted towards me. Or I could also release a signal that's not so nice for Ollie, and he's like, oh, I'm going to sort of move away. So I need to borrow you for a second. Okay, so one of the things we figured out some time ago is actually you have two populations of cells, right? One is a neural crest cell, which is fantastic because it migrates a lot, becomes really good cell types, really interesting cell types, really kick ass. The other one is a placoid cell, which is kind of like an epidermal cell, and it's kind of shit. Okay, and this guy, right? But he's releasing an attractant, right? I'm going to go over to Ollie because I'm attracted to this guy, and when I get there, I'm releasing a repeller. Right? Which means he moves further away, but he's still releasing the attractant, so I'm like, and so on and so on. And we just keep moving around the embryo like this, and it's a chase and run mechanism. This is what we called it, and basically that's what's going on. And then these two populations, they move collectively around the embryo in a very directional way, just because of these two different signals.
Science, bitch!
Okay. And so actually in the end of that paper, I even managed to include a little diagram of a donkey with a carrot and a stick, because essentially that's the model, right? Now they have like mathematical models, and it's quite cool, but I prefer my donkey with a carrot. Okay, so there's some principles about how cells sort of make decisions and how they know where to go. And really, a lot of it depends in terms of building those body axes on the formation of this organizer structure, right? And so now we're going to think about these different species. We're going to think about the zebrafish. So zebrafish, when they're undergoing development, essentially have a small yolk, and the embryo is actually sitting on top of the yolk, right? And the job of the embryo, as it's forming its body axis, is to migrate over that yolk and completely engulf it, right? So it's going to swallow up that yolk, and the endoderm, it's going to form the gut, is going to be next to that yolk, so then it can just use all the nutrients. It's very smart. And it does this very quickly, and it does it within 24 hours. It's actually a swimming, eating sort of organism within 24 hours. It's a very quick way of doing it. Chick embryo, now you imagine the same thing, but you make the yolk bigger, really, really big. And we know what a chicken yolk looks like.
I don't, I'm vegan.
So what a chicken yolk looks like, right? It's very big. And and the embryo actually is just a small white disc sitting on top of the yolk. Sometimes you might see, not this guy, but sometimes you might see a small white disc sitting on top of the yolk. And so it's far too big for the embryo to engulf the yolk in the way that a zebrafish embryo does. So it just stays on the top. It's actually, the embryo forms a flat disc-like shape, and it's basically doing the cell movements on top of that disc. It can never quite get around. A mouse embryo doesn't have any yolk, right? Because it's a placental mammal, right? It's living inside the mother. So imagine there's no yolk at all, but the mouse embryo is, one of maybe 12 embryos inside the mother. So that disc now gets sort of shaped the other way around, so it's like bending back on itself in a weird shape because it's trying to pack inside of the uterus of the mother. And it's developing inside the uterus, and then eventually you will get blood supply from the mother, from the placenta, and all this kind of thing, similar to us. And yet, given all of these big differences at these stages in terms of the shape of the embryo and what the cell movements are trying to do and how it's getting nutrition from the mother, we know that the same organizer forms, right? The same signals are involved, and the same genes are involved in responding to those signals in order to generate a pattern. Things are very, very conserved between the species. But what's different is that the signals generate that organizer come from different places, right? Because we have a yolk in some contexts and we don't have a yolk in other contexts, and the yolk is in terms of the embryo at different times in these different contexts, right? Okay, fine. So now I was like, okay, I think we've got this. I think we more or less understand. We've gone into great detail of understanding what these different signals are and how it's different between all the different species. But then a friend of mine in the neighbouring lab to ours did an experiment that got me a bit confused. Okay, so what they did was they took mouse embryonic stem cells. Okay, so these are essentially stem cells. They're essentially cells that have the ability to become lots of different cell types. Okay, and they also have the ability to make more than cells. Okay, that's what a stem cell is. Right? And so you can take mouse embryonic stem cells, which are essentially very early unprogrammed cells. So it's like taking the cells of the early embryo before they've received any signals to become different cell types. So they took those cells, and instead of culturing them on a 2D dish, they allowed them to aggregate together to form a ball of cells. And spontaneously, they found that one side of the aggregate was different from another. And then the thing started moving and developing. And then spontaneously, it forms its own organizer, and then patterns its own body axes, without any of these signals from the extraembryonic tissues that we thought was so important. And so what we've done is to do the same experiment in a zebrafish. We've taken the early embryonic cells from the top of the yolk, as I mentioned, right? Allowed them to aggregate and ask, well, can they do the same thing? And they do. They just spontaneously, one side gets different from the other. They start talking to one another. They self-organize and organize them, right? And then form body axes. So now we just don't. Okay. But maybe what it means is that there's something sort of very evolutionary conserved in this patterning process that is self-organizing and is something we don't quite understand yet. And as evolution's taken these embryos and put them onto large or small yolks, all this kind of thing, they've adapted the way that this self-organizing process works so that it's more robust to different species development. Something like this. So this is what we don't get. And this is basically where I'm at the moment. So thank you very much.
And now, without further ado, the troupe will attempt to unlearn the things for you.
Just go, you'll be fine. It's alright, everyone's here. It's the 20th of September, and we're going to storm Area 51. The only other thing that's happening today is the iPhone, but it's like iPhone 500 or something now at this point. So.
Yeah, but there's only 2 of us. I wish there was more of us, Jerry.
Well, maybe more people like gather
Oh,
around.
thank God!
Kevin, you came.
Oh, fuck me, it's hot!
Yeah, it's a desert.
Fucking hell's bells. Right.
Yeah.
Where's the women?
Well, no, it's a geek fest, isn't it? We're gonna.
Where are the men?
Right.
Yeah.
We're men. Yeah.
So what are we doing?
Well, we think they've got like alien cells or something in there.
Yeah.
And we're gonna storm in there like this.
Yeah.
Alright? And then if there's enough of us, we can storm in there basically. And then we can find out all like the freaky shit that's going on in there.
Yeah.
Why don't you just ask them?
Well,
Sure, okay. Oh, hey. What sort of freaky shit happening in there?
Sorry, I was supposed to be organizer.
Who's the organizer?
you're
You're the organizer.
I
yeah.
deleted the Facebook account, so I'm not actually the organiser. I can't take full responsibility
Sorry,
for
I
it. So actually, it's Kevin now.
You're the
Kevin's
organiser.
the organiser.
Yeah, all me.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
For the.
Where are the aliens, dude?
No.
They haven't got any. They're not in.
Oh, okay.
Well, of course they're gonna say. Of course they're gonna say that. aren't
Oh.
they?
Are you lying?
Yes.
Oh, are they those new light-up jeans?
Yeah, what do you think?
Cool, so what happens if I turn them on?
Let's try it.
Okay, where's the switch? There. There.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, like I'm really attracted to you right now. I'm so attracted to you. Yeah, I'm really attracted to you.
Alright, mate. Yeah, I like you too.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I do.
Wow, I don't really think many people like me, you know, because I'm alien and everything, and I'm a new species.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, do you want to go out?
Really?
Yeah.
With me? Oh my god! You should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait till the day.
Oh, Nando's is good.
Welcome to the game show. This is Epidermises of the World. Here are our two contestants. Please introduce yourselves.
Sean Smith,
John Smith, he likes epidermises.
and I work in IT.
Cool. And
I'm Barry Smith. I also work in IT.
We're not actually related.
We're not related. We're not related.
Some people say we are,
So
but
we are, but we're not related.
it's quite interesting.
We get that a lot. don't
We get that all the time,
Yeah,
actually.
I think our audience would really like to know that.
Because we look a bit like
We look a bit like
Yeah.
we both work. We both work in.
IT.
Yeah, IT. We have the same cubicle. Yeah, near cubicle. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, the water fountain,
yeah.
Thank you for your introductions. I think you all know how this game works now. We show an epidermis, and we give both of our contestants a chance to identify whose it is.
Okay.
So,
What's an epidermis?
Look at the skin.
Yeah, I've seen
you
people's
guys tell
skins.
me whose skin it is.
Yeah.
Here's epidermis number 1,
Roy Walker.
Roy Walker.
Ding dong.
Sharon Stone wearing Roy Walker's skin.
Those are both very good answers. I'm afraid you're both wrong.
Can we confirm?
I'm sorry, you've now got no time.
We think
What's
it's
your...
Jon Snow from Game of Thrones wearing Jon Snow, the Channel 4 newsreaders.
Yeah.
Close. It was actually Justin Trudeau.
That's not a picture.
Yeah.
We back up to this page.
I don't know who I am.
Okay. What can I do to help? Can we get the organizer in?
Someone with an organizer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
What do you
man doesn't know who he is.
Okay, what do you want to be?
I don't know.
Do you want to be the muscle, the
You
nerves?
can't be muscle.
Oh, mind you, from the crying, definitely nerves because they feel
You've
everything.
got nerves. You want to be a nerve? What kind of nerve do you want to be? Do you want to be a nerve in an interesting place or a boring place? Or do you want to be in a very intimate place that's going to get messy?
Yeah, that one. That sounds fun.
Okay, you get the inner thigh towards the back.
Congratulations!
Squeaky, squeaky, squeaky.
Hey. Yeah. It's goodbye.
Yeah, it's alright actually. I mean, but I've been to bed.
Hey.
This is cool. Can I add you guys as friends on my Facebook?
I'm not on Facebook.
How did you find out about the party?
I'm writing a letter.
People do that? Oh, okay. Can I add you as a friend on Facebook?
I'm only on B though. I like it because it's ironically retro, but still terrible.
Okay.
That's not the reason I like Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
It's ironically great.
Yeah.
Ironically great.
Yeah, I'm going with it.
What time should things, you know, sort of get interesting?
Oh, this is it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's hosted by Barry, a dermatologist, because the epidermis is so interesting. I'm not boring at all.
Okay, this is your 1 month review. How are you finding your position on the upper thigh rear end?
It's in the morning a little clean,
Okay,
tidy.
good.
Kind of late afternoon, I'm feeling a little damp.
Okay, yeah.
And then in the evening, someone else comes along.
Now, are you happy in your position? Do you want to move up the chain?
How far up?
Well, we've got two routes. We can basically go that way, or we can go that way. Which way do we want to go? What's your dream? What's your dream, Kyle?
I dream of being dry.
When you use them first.
Dream being dry. Okay. Well. A lot of these places are going to get wet. I mean, there's that place. Do you want to go there? That's a bit dry.
It's too dry.
Well, you're either going to be too dry or too wet. What would you rather be? Too dry or too wet? Like a desert or like a swimming pool?
I'll go to the dry place with this.
Yeah, you can, Carl.
Right, we gotta like move everything basically. So if you grab the turtle doves, I'll grab the three French hens. Right, what the fuck else is there? Right,
Hey, ring. Hey, 5.
yeah.
Got the 5 bill rings?
Yeah, we're just worried about the animals right now though.
Oh.
So they could come in at any moment. So
Well, I've got one here. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it.
yeah, leave the elephant alone, okay?
Oh, sorry. I thought it was elephant milking. No, it's
Can
no,
someone move
sorry.
this partridge, please? It's really uncomfortable.
Right, yeah. You just take it off your head and it'll run off. Put it down on the floor gently, please. Gotta be kind to animals. Yeah, just put it down, please. Jeff, what is it that you're doing? Oh, jeez. I think it's gone. There's nothing you. Oh, jeez. I'm sorry, you did everything you could.
So it's the special round, is it?
Yes, it's the special round. Thank you for coming back.
No, that's fine.
You succeeded.
That's great. I did knock out my friend.
You did knock
Not
out your
related.
friend.
It's not related though.
Well, it's
Still no relation.
No relation. I've got him for moral support.
You can do it.
Thank you. It's really encouraging.
Well, the special round is exactly the same as the earlier round.
Oh, okay. Skin.
Skin.
Oh,
So here's a picture of an epidermis.
okay.
Whose epidermis is it? You've got
Oh.
30 seconds.
My epidermis. No, my mum's. Shines. The kid who once bullied me, but then I slapped him in the face and he got really red.
I've got to interrupt you to say that you have got 11 seconds left.
Oh.
And now you've only got 8
Oh,
seconds
no,
left.
but I haven't guessed anything yet.
You've got 5 seconds left at the time that I started talking,
Oh.
and now you've only got 2 seconds
Oh,
left.
okay, Disney.
You're saying that that's Disney epidermis.
Disney is in the company, yes. Their own skin.
Well, you're close. We were looking for DreamWorks. But please do come back.
Hello.
You're alright, mate.
I clean.
Yeah, you did a good job, mate.
You see face?
We've asked you not to draw faces on the floor. Because to clean the floor, not draw faces.
But I couldn't clean that spot, so I thought I would make a picture.
I mean, it's good, I will give you that, but just keep cleaning, mate, huh?
More like smush face now.
Yeah, it's very good.
Maybe I work in science department now.
No. I've got like a PhD and a PGA.
Wow, that's pretty huge.
Excuse me? Up here.
Sorry.
Stop looking at my work.
Yes. May I go into? may I go into room now? To see the room without my camera. Will you let me in the restricted area to see the room with the stuff in?
Yeah, why not?
So Nando's, pretty good day. I didn't think you'd bring your friend though.
We're work buddies.
Oh really? Yeah, because I thought this was like maybe a date thing instead of like a friend date thing.
Kind of difficult because we're the anus. We have to stay together.
Yeah, no, yeah. So you really moved up in the game then, did you? Yeah.
It's a crucial function, Janine.
You know my real name?
Don't forget us. We're only an inch and a half away from you guys all the time.
Yeah.
Fucking dicks!
I guess that makes me the in-between.
Looking for work.
What do you do?
Whatever you want me to do.
Anything.
Anything. I'll do anything.
Cool.
Just give me a direction.
I'm looking for someone who.
Yeah. Yeah, give it to me.
I need some skin.
Yep.
Oh, look at my skin.
What else? Try something else. Try something else.
No. I need to shave your skin.
Why?
Oh, I mean to kind of pinkish it.
Okay, well, just give me an order to be really hairy, then. Well,
No, it's got to be completely. Bald.
how are you going to shave me if I'm completely bald?
We have lasers. When I was in Italy, someone taught me how to laser a man of all of his hair, but would never touch his skin.
Okay, where do you want me?
Rome.
In Rome, or do you want me in the Rome?
I want you.
Yeah, go on. Oh, sorry, hang on. It's my cupboard.
Don't trust him.
No.
He lasered me once and it just didn't work.
Oh, God, yeah. Well,
It was the 70s, it was a different time.
okay, laser me, bitch.
And freeze right there. So, I'm getting a few themes here. I'm getting the theme of the organizer. I'm getting the theme of cells, a little bit of aliens, a very interesting procedure about to begin. Shaving a man with a laser. This man's been to Rome.
I'm Dennis.
And yes, he went
Not
shut
that
up about it. So, what I'd like to see is a recap of the past 15 minutes. Show us exactly what's gone on. You can have 1 minute and then go straight back into it. And at that point, I hope you figured out the through line of the story, because Well, yes.
Anyone? Oh, it's the 20th, and we're going to storm Area 51.
I think it's spin.
Shit, I am really late.
It's a really bad joke.
Really bad spin joke. So you want to be an anus, do you? I can make you an anus.
Join the club. We're the anus now.
And we're only an inch and a half away.
Fucking dicks.
And I'm the middle.
I killed a bird. Oh, yeah, shit, that's better.
Shave me.
With pleasure.
Wow, laser me. Laser
I
shave.
don't want to laze you. I thought you weren't even listening, god damn it!
He went to Italy.
Thank you, Siri. Take it off, slowly.
Alright.
I meant your top.
Oh, wow. Nice to meet you.
You, boy, clean up that face!
Yes, I will clean it right now. Well, it's clean now.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
Yes.
You dropped this cake.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cut! I don't think the body channel's working, guys. Our series aren't going well, so...
I thought I was doing a very good job of
No.
being like a decapitated body with a face thing.
The only thing on the body channel that's working is the epidermis quiz, but like apart from that, nothing else is really. We've tried first dates with aliens and it's just not worked, and now like the.
Yeah, that's right. Fine.
I thought American Horror Story wasn't meant to make any sense till the end.
No, it wasn't. But as the organizer, I really think we need to organize our shit.
Okay, well I'll just take myself elsewhere.
I think we should sack him.
I think you really upset him,
I know.
and I feel strongly attracted to follow him.
So how are you enjoying your first day?
It's nice. It smells funny.
It's not all bad, right? You only have to work like a couple of times a day. Most of the time we're just like this. It's lovely. It's like a family.
Yeah,
It's like a family.
it's a regular thing.
Speaking of, and sweet, there you go. Oh, someone's regular. Someone's having their prune juice. Blimey. Oh, have we got another little bit? Oh, we'll just leave it there.
You like this carrot, don't you, donkey? You like this carrot? Come get it. Come get it. Come get it, donkey. You like You got it.
Fucking go, you fucking piece of shit, you fucking this isn't working. I really don't want to be your donkey anymore.
I've had enough as well. You know how hot it is back there? Somebody had beans.
Not only beans, I had eggs and broccoli and cabbage.
Seriously, it's like fucking hell down there.
Oh, I can make it hell if you want it, but I'll make it hell.
Oh, really?
Get back in there, I'll make it fucking hell. Okay, this was a hard one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's maybe.
Do you want to call a friend?
I could, yes.
Great. Have you got a friend?
Yes, I have.
Great. Who do you want to call?
My friend from work. I think you've got his number.
The other contestant.
The other, well, we're friends.
Cool.
I don't want to call him by name though.
I believe it was Mr. Smith.
We just call each other number 2 and number 3.
Okay. Please call them.
have reached the voicemail service of Mr. Smith.
Hi, number 3. It's me, desk buddy. Was wondering if you knew the answer to a question. Call me back.
The good thing,
We'll wait for him to call back.
we'll just wait.
Yeah.
It's me. Can you call me back? Please call me back. I need your help. It's me. Number 2.
You're through to the host of whose epidermis is this?
Yeah, it's number 2. I was number 3.
Ah, yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, you can hold it.
I know I can hold it.
Guys,
Yeah.
I can see you. I can just come in the studio if you want.
Is he allowed to come in the studio?
Well, it's against protocol.
I've already got a microphone. I can just come in the studio.
Okay, come in.
Come in the studio. Okay. See you in a second. I'll be there in a second.
Okay, so
Now we just wait.
skin.
Have you got any clues?
Sorry, I went the wrong way.
That's right. Hey.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah, come
Please, please. And if the audience member from 2003 era, would you like to be a millionaire, could please just stand it down.
Okay, so I've got a question about skin.
Okay.
I'm not too sure. We've had a 50-50.
Yeah. The question is, whose skin is this? It's the same question you were asked earlier. It's the only question in the show.
Okay.
Now the skin looks very familiar, which means I think I know the
I know
person.
the person
Yeah, I
as
know the
well.
person. Yeah.
Is it number? Is copy number 1? No, you're number 2.
Okay, number 1.
Number 2.
Point 1. So, number 2 in 1. Number 2 in 1.
1.
Please state your answer.
Okay, number 2.
After I say now.
Roy Walker.
Now.
Number 2 inside 1.
Congratulations, it is number 2 inside number 1.
Oh, can we guess which part?
You want to go for the bonus prize?
Bonus prize.
And please could we have our lovely skin lady to show us the prize?
The answer's always a booby prize. It's a booby.
No, it's a booby.
It's a booby prize.
And here is the prize.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god, it's like a little statue of David that I saw when I was in Florence last week.
I think it's really good that your work gives you benefits, that you can take a holiday off during sort of busy periods of work.
It's good, isn't it?
It's great. I wish I had that kind of idea being a self-employed person, even in the same office. I know. But I'm contracted out as a consultant.
I really want that.
Okay.
Here's
Which
the-
part inside him? Which would be inside?
I think
Traditionally it's a penis.
It's a gooch.
So it's- no, but that's too
a
obvious.
gooch.
It's too obvious.
It's a gooch.
I think it's a fish.
Can I please have an answer? I think it's a finger inside a mouth. You saw that picture. But it was a... Can we please have some decorum?
I think it's the fish.
You are correct, it is the fish. Congratulations. Here is your prize. This mini statue of Michelangelo's David made entirely out of gooch skin.
It's what I always wanted.
Thank you. Please tune in to our next episode. Whose epidermis is this? I will now read out the credits.
Welcome to Lucio's YouTube page, and I successfully infiltrated Area 51, and it was shit. They were practicing some sort of game show ideaing. There were lots of animals. There was a lot of anuses and a very big penis. Tune in next episode. Please like and subscribe. I like it.
I just got fingered in the mouth, Chris.
You, Chris, not me, Chris.
So this is a form group. I was the thing in the middle, and then they made me into a statue because they thought it'd be fun to use my skin for that.
I was a bumhole.
Was it too wet?
Nope.
Then why did you leave?
Smells funny.
Did they try the fish hook?
I don't know what it means.
You don't want to know, my friend. You don't want to know.
Can I be something else now?
Mouth?
Ooh. That doesn't go anywhere near the...
Mouth.
Stephen.
Sorry, you were. I just wanted to dedicate this gooch to you. I know I demonstrated the fish hook on you, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put my fingers inside your mouth.
Although it did give us our highest ratings ever.
It was inappropriate of me, and I have this letter of apology that I need to give to you as HR have told me. Along with this settlement fee of a wad of cash. It's a lot of money, I know. It's because our friendship means a lot to you, and if you would like to wear this mask at all times when we're present, and I will put my hands in mittens, if you could put the mittens on me, please, in all times that we are together. I'm here, you're safe.
My role as presenter is done, so I'm now going to leave.
Awesome. You're so funny.
So the Nando's date was great.
Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe next we could go fishing.
Can I add you guys on Facebook? No one else turned up to the event that I posted, and I just want friends on Facebook. You don't have to be friends with me in real life, just on Facebook.
I think I'd rather be friends with you.
Really?
Yeah.
What, like real life friends?
Sure, why not?
Well, I don't really know what to do other than like your photos and stuff. Like, how do I do that in person? Oh, I like your face. Yeah, I guess I did. That's how you do it in real life.
Can I poke you?
Who?
Either.
Do I like write that down or something? Do I have to say how it makes me feel?
You can comment.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Suppose you could request that. Yeah, I might accept.
Requesting it.
Yeah.
A comment.
Oh god. Oh god, move. Move away. Move away in random directions that make absolutely no sense.
Block.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there. Like that.
Don't listen to them. I've got a wonderful job opportunity for you.
What is it?
Become an anus.
Okay. Sounds good.